Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about something a little different to perhaps what I normally talk about. On this channel I'm trying to deliver techniques, concepts, insight that are going to help you guys grow and live a more positive and more fulfilled life. And I think these things are incredibly important, but I also think today's discussion is incredibly important. It's a subject that's close to my heart, and I know it'll be close to the heart of all of you who are watching this, because it's something that affects all of us at some time in our life. And this is, what do we do when someone we love is incredibly ill, has a life-threatening illness, a debilitating illness, something that impairs them in their lives? And this is a subject that's close to my heart because, as most of you know, my personal story, the reason why I'm doing this is because I lost my dad. I had to go through a period of watching my dad lose his fight with cancer. And I know that for just cancer alone, cancer rates now are anywhere between 1 in 3 and 1 in 2. It's something that affects a huge proportion of the population, either directly or indirectly. And that's just cancer. You've got all the other things such as dementia, diseases, paralysis. All of these sorts of things are things that are incredibly stressful on the individual who's suffering from them, of course, but also for the loved ones that they have in their lives, the loved ones who have to care for them or see them in this debilitated state. And this is what I want to talk about today. What do you do if you're one of those loved ones? What do you do when you see someone you love in this debilitated state, and perhaps you're having to face up to the inevitability that you're going to lose this loved one soon? So from my personal experience, there are a couple of things that helped me get through my difficult time, and that's what I want to share with you today. So when you're in this scenario, the first fundamental principle thing you've got to do is your own self-care. If you're trying to look after someone else, if you're worried about someone else, the last thing your loved one needs is you in a mess. You've got to look after yourself. You've got to look after yourself in normal life, so when you're in this period of high stress, high negativity, you've really got to make sure you look after yourself. So keep on exercising, eat healthy food. You might not be sleeping that great, but try and maintain your sleep hygiene. Do your meditation. Go for walks in nature. Keep on looking after yourself, because as the parable goes, when you're in a plane and it's about to crash, you put on your own oxygen mask before helping other people. You've got to look after yourself first. And man, I know this is difficult. When I first found out about my dad, I kept on trying to do this, and if anything, I was maybe a little too eager to just step back in and try and live a normal life. So I was still going to the gym, I was still going out and doing my shopping, and I would find myself, certainly in the first few days after the news, I would find myself running back home, trying to stop the tears that were about to cascade out. But you know what the thing is? Despite how bad I was feeling, I still managed to get out there and look after myself, to keep my self-care high. And when you're able to do these little self-care things, if you're able to make it to an exercise class, if you're able to go out and buy yourself some healthy ingredients and make a healthy meal, if you're able to complete your meditation without constantly thinking about this thing that's on your mind, then you can chalk that off as a small win. And for those of you who watched one of my other videos on depression, you'll know that this is one of the things I recommend in times of depression to people who are feeling depression, is to find these small victories throughout the day, because they do incredible things for your self-worth and your self-efficacy. And you might not be suffering from depression, but you're certainly in a depressed state when you're in this type of scenario. So if you can have these little victories to just keep yourself going, keep your self-care up, then that is so vital. And this links in with the second tip that I have. And this is, don't beat yourself up. Again, when you're going through a negative time, when you've got all this stress and anxiety, the last thing you need to do is get down on yourself And it's amazing how we can transfer these things to ourselves. You know, someone else's plight becomes our plight, and we get hit with feelings of guilt, feelings of rejection, concern and anxiety for an upcoming loss, trauma, you name it. All of these things can be going round and round in our mind, and we can't let that happen. You can't beat yourself up, because again, if you're beating yourself up, you're not going to be the best possible person in the best possible state to be there for your loved one. Not just your loved one directly, but all the other people who are affected by this. You have to be strong for them. And you can do this through just not beating yourself up. And if you find there's a particular feeling or pattern of thoughts that keeps on coming up, then I have a recommendation for you. If you check out this book, it's Emotional First Aid by Guy Winch, and he goes through 7 of our most common negative emotions and how to do first aid on yourself, how to alleviate these negative wounds, if you like. So that's my second tip, is don't beat yourself up. When life has taken a swing at us, the last thing you need to do is swing at yourself back. So don't beat yourself up. Now, tip number 3, and this is arguably the most important tip, and that is savor the moments. When you're with your loved one, savor the time that you get to spend with them, especially if there is a timer ticking away. If your loved one has some kind of debilitation that has put a limit on how long they've got left, then you really need to savor that time with them. And I know they may not be in the best state if they're suffering from dementia, for example. They may not always be coherent and with you. If they're suffering from some kind of physical illness, they may be in a lot of pain, they may be morphined up, and that can be really tough to see someone you love like that. But whatever little moments you get with them, little moments of clarity and connection, sometimes you even find joy in the strangest places in these scenarios. Savor that. That is so, so important. And I'll tell you what, after the ordeal is done, for one way or another, one outcome or another, those are the things that you'll remember, and those are the things that are important. Believe it or not, you actually won't really remember the bad times. I mean, of course, you'll remember them on an intellectual sense, but you'll have an emotional and spiritual detachment from them. What you'll really savor and what you'll really remember is those moments of joy, clarity, connection. Those tiny little times that you had with your loved one that brought meaning to you. Those are the things that you'll remember. So try and have them as often as possible, and try to savor them in the present, because you only get that present one time. And especially if that timer is ticking, then you need to make most of the time that you've got left. So that's tip number 3, is savor those present moments. Now tip number 4 is return to gratitude. Now Dave, you might be saying, how the hell can I be grateful when my loved one is in pain and in suffering, and we're all in pain and suffering because of this? Well, this is the time that we need most to be grateful. All of the things that I share with you on this channel, all of the tips and strategies and concepts, yeah, they're fine and good to do when you're ahead in life and they keep you feeling good, but I developed these through times of struggle, through times of pain, and this is when we need them most. We most need to find gratitude when we don't know what we can be grateful for. And this was something that I found real strength in during the last couple months that I had with my dad, was returning to gratitude. I continued doing my gratitude journal. In fact, here I have 27th of May 2015. That was the day that I found out about Dad's cancer. And I recorded in my gratitude journal on that day, on the day that I found out my dad was soon about to die, I returned to gratitude. And in fact, there were some pretty existential kind of things to be grateful for, but sometimes we need this sort of thing in life to really remind us what's important in life, what the things to really appreciate are. So that's what I'd say to you is return to gratitude. Find all these little things throughout the day, throughout your life, throughout your interactions that you can be grateful for. Because there's going to be so much going on in this period that worries you, stresses you out, brings you down. But gratitude is such a powerful antidote for this. For me, gratitude is the second most powerful feeling that we can feel behind love. When you get into that intense zone of gratitude, of appreciation, when I'm in that state, I can be brought to tears of joy, feeling this immense appreciation for everything that I am and everything that I have and everything that I've done. And if you can find a semblance of that feeling, that's going to give you strength and courage to get through this. And talking of getting through this, my final tip is find meaning in this experience. Now again, this might be one where you're sitting there thinking, David, how is this meaningful? My parent or my partner or my child is in pain and suffering. How can this happen? How is this fair? And I'm not saying that it's fair, and I'm not saying that there aren't some things in this world that don't necessarily have a good explanation, or it's really tough to find any sort of meaning in it. But for me, I'm just sharing what I found useful in my experience. And even as soon as I found out about Dad's cancer, going back to that entry in the gratitude journal, I was recording things about purpose, about the importance of life, about finding strength. And I realized that this was going to be a painful experience for me. But I knew in my heart of hearts, deep within me, my spirit, my soul, my unconscious, whatever you want to call it, I knew that this experience was going to change me. And I was going to get a lot from this experience. And at the time, I didn't necessarily know how that manifests. I didn't see myself necessarily where I am now, doing these videos and speaking on stages and writing a best-selling book about the experience. But I knew something like that was going to come out of this. I knew something like that would change in my life. I knew that one way or another, this experience was going to give me extra purpose and drive and meaning in my life. And now I knew this before the fact, and this again may be so hard to find when you're embroiled within it. But just try and reflect on this. Reflect even on what's going on in the day-to-day life. How have your priorities changed? How much more are you able to take on and still function? How much more strength and courage have you been able to muster every single time you go and see that loved one, and you know that you're going to see them in pain, or you know that you're going to see them for one of the last times? What incredible strength and courage you have to be able to do that. And we definitely don't give ourselves enough credit for that in our normal lives, never mind in a period like this. And whatever's going to happen, whatever outcome you're heading towards, you will find something in this. It might not be apparent to you right now, it might not be apparent 6 months down the line, it might not be apparent 6 years down the line. But there will be a time when you look back and you realize that what has happened now, what is happening now, is exactly what was meant to happen. It was an integral cog in your life story and your life journey, whatever that may be. And I think that's an encouraging thought. It may not be the most coherent thing that you can grab onto and instantly make yourself feel better, but if you can keep that in the back of your mind, that everything in life happens for a reason, whatever your spiritual or religious beliefs, unless you're an absolute nihilist, and I don't think that anyone who thinks that way is attracted to my channel, so I know that I'm speaking to open-minded, conscious people. You may be religious, spiritual, whatever. I know that for those of you who watch this, you have some belief that everything in our life happens for a purpose. And this thing that's happening to you right now is no different. There is meaning in this. And I think to finish off on this point, I'll return to one of my favorite stories and anecdotes of this is Viktor Frankl. who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Jewish psychiatrist, and he was held in Nazi concentration camps. And what he observed during his time in this arguably the most atrocious experience that any human has ever had to go through, he found that during this time, he observed that those who survived were those who were able to find some kind of meaning in their experience. And I think for the people in these circumstances to be subjected to that brutality and dehumanization, for them to still find something in that experience, I just find so inspiring and incredible. And it certainly inspires me anytime that I'm feeling bad in my life, something's going wrong in my life, boo-hoo, poor me. I didn't have to go through the concentration camps. And I hope that none of you watching this had to go through concentration camps or anything close to that, or you don't have relatives or ancestors who did. But I think back to those people and how they survived that, and I find that so encouraging and inspiring that through finding meaning, they were able to increase their chances of survival in that horrible, horrible place. And I think if we can find meaning in our particular time of struggle and challenge, then perhaps we can move on to something better and brighter. So guys, those are my 5 tips for getting through this difficult time. And just to finish off, I just want to wish your loved ones well, and I want to send positive and healing thoughts towards them. It may not be something that can change the outcome of what's about to happen, but I hope that they can have serenity in their experience, because for those of you know, you'll know about my story of the last 60 minutes and spending the last 60 minutes with my dad. And you know what? There was incredible serenity in that time. My dad passed very peacefully. He often talked about how when he was ready to die, he just wanted to go out into the woods and meditate and just become one with nature, the universe. And in a funny way, that's actually kind of what he did. And I found that very beautiful, even though it was very sad and painful at the same time. So I want to send that feeling towards you and towards your loved ones. I hope that you'll be able to find those little moments to savor, those little moments of serenity in the storm. And I wish you well for the times ahead. And I just want to assure you that you have unbelievable strength and courage within you. And you may surprise yourself at just how much you can find during this time and the times to come. So folks, I look forward to speaking to you in the next video. I hope that I'll have more things to share with you that are going to help you on the journey and the path through the struggles and the problems. But until then, go out there and live your life of love and service. I'll be speaking to you soon. David.